Hi, Matthew.
Hey, hey.
Hey, I'm so excited you're joining us. And everyone, thank you so much. Seriously, the chat energy just helps us feel like we're not talking to a black hole, and you guys are bringing it this morning. So, appreciate you. You guys are the real MVPs. You are here for Turn Leads into Lasting Clients. This is going to be an hour-long interactive session covering how the tools you're choosing to invest in are either serving you or maybe not serving you in order to ensure that you're really staying top of mind with your clients, optimizing your client communications, and closing confidently. Those are the three kind of pillars we're going to be leaning on today. And we're so glad you guys are here. Love, love, love seeing you all in the chat, letting us know where you're tuning in from, what kind of business you run. This is a wonderful community moment as well. We're here to learn from you guys just as much as you're here to learn from us. So take it as a moment to get to know some folks maybe in the same industry as you, connect online. We're so glad we're all here in the same room together. So let's introduce ourselves. I need to introduce myself. My name is Mac. I've been with HoneyBook for over 7 years, working alongside business owners like yourselves to help y'all improve your systems and processes so you can get back time to doing more of what you love. Doesn't that sound good? HoneyBook, if you're new to HoneyBook, you never heard about us and you're just here to learn today, that's wonderful. I want to give you a quick rundown. HoneyBook is a client management system that helps you track, create, and organize all of your client communications from inquiry through final booking. So some of the features and tools we offer are lead capturing, scheduling, automations, invoicing, contracts, and of course, e-signatures. And we got some really rad AI tools that I'm going to be walking you guys through and that Matthew actually uses. So he's going to give us real life experience with these things. We've got a meeting note taker, an AI writing assistant that helps you draft emails. Hello, mind blown. And then project summaries to get you speed access to the things that you need. So of course, we also integrate with all of your favorite tools. That's enough about HoneyBook. Let's meet Matthew. We have Matthew Erickson here today. He is a brand designer, a sustainable business advocate, and he works with independent businesses to build cohesive brand experiences that convert. Incredible. He's a longtime HoneyBook user and even coaches other HoneyBook members on how to better use the systems as a HoneyBook Pro here. So Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. What else should people know about you as we embark on this journey together today?
Hey, everyone. I'm super excited to be here with you all today. And a note to Mac, can you just come with me everywhere and give me an intro? Because that would be all great.
Absolutely. The trumpet.
So a few fun facts about me that Mac didn't mention is that I'm tuning in from spooky Salem, Massachusetts. I saw in the chat we have some other Massachusetts-based folks, so
Love
excited to
it.
be here with you all. I have no idea what I'm going to be for Halloween this year, so if you have any ideas, please drop that in the chat. That's
Oh,
most
yeah.
important. As Max said, I have been in business for myself for the past 5 years, and out of which I've used HoneyBook for like 4.5.
Wow.
And I guess the only other thing that I would add would be a fun fact, which
Yeah.
is that my husband and I actually share the same name. And no, I'm not referring to like our last name. We're actually both named Matthew. Not sure how fun that is, but that's all I got. So we're going to go with that.
I love it. We saw some laughing emojis come through, so I think it's fun enough. Yeah, Matthew plus Matthew. I actually just learned this fun fact yesterday, you guys. So incredible stuff here. We want you guys to leave here today with practical tips for turning potential clients into lasting relationships. Thank you, Emma. We got the heck yes coming through. Wonderful. Okay, this is our first time that we're going to be having a little conversational moment. So, a good little practice moment for us. When you guys think about this concept of building client relationships, right? That's what we're here for today. What is your biggest struggle? Let's take a moment to just kind of share in the chat when it comes to this concept of building these lasting relationships and these client relationships. What's your biggest struggle? Maybe it's, marketing and generating leads. Maybe it's having enough time to really show up as the best version of your business that you want to. There's so many different, areas of this. So when you think about building these lasting client relationships or just building client relationships in general, what's kind of the hardest part here? Okay, we've got some coming through. Moya says finding clients. Risha, showing authority. Okay. Wow. Love that. Yeah. Marketing, bringing them in, bringing the info they'll care about, generating quality leads. That's huge. Keeping in touch authentically. Yeah, Audrey, after your project is completed, and the lack of understanding. Absolutely. These are all amazing, right? And oh my gosh, we have so many in here. Mel says onboarding. Yes, this is so real, right? So, in today's class, what we're really going to be focusing on is how the tools you're choosing to invest in are serving you or maybe not serving you and keeping you top of mind, right? So, we're talking about keeping in touch with our clients. I've seen that come through the chat. Optimizing for your client communication. So, that's really all around optimizing your time and making sure you're showing up as your best self. And then closing confidently. We talked about this concept of authority, which I love to see in the chat, right? When you're selling confidently, that's all about peace of mind and eliminating chaos. So that's what we're going to be focusing about today. Love it. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle it. We're going to start off by covering organizing and prioritizing. This is one of our key pillars here. We're going to be really focusing on how to centralize those people, right? Getting super organized and then getting super clear on who your dream client is and getting more of those people to come in and maybe even filtering out some of those people who are not your dreamiest client. Okay. And then we'll talk about staying connected and top of mind. This is really around that communication piece, communicating super clearly with your leads and your clients and being one of those first people in their inbox, super on top of the ball, really impressing them in that regard. And then closing with confidence. We already talked about this a little bit, but this is all around a frictionless sales process. So you're never leaving money on the table and really able to scale your business in that regard. And then, of course, we'll have time for questions at the end as well.
Yeah, so let's kick this puppy off. Let's look at how the client experience plays a pretty major factor in our overall satisfaction, but also that of our clients.
Yeah.
So to illustrate this point, I want to throw it back a couple weeks. My birthday was in September, and my friends treated me to honestly one of the best dinners
Oh,
ever.
love it.
And I don't know about you, Mac, and everyone else here, but
Yeah.
whenever I go to like a top-notch restaurant and have that top-notch experience, I just want to keep going back. Just like,
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you my money. Just please keep on giving me this experience. And I really think that that illustrates what all of us as independents need to also model in our own businesses,
Mm-hmm.
right? And these restaurants, these are the places where when you arrive, right, the host immediately brings you to your seat. The
Mm-hmm.
server educates you on, the menu and which wine pairs with your entree.
Mm-hmm.
There's those fluffy, delicious, warm rolls on the table. Now I'm hungry.
I know, me too.
They fill your water and wine as soon as it's starting to get low without you ever needing to ask,
Mm-hmm.
right? Folks are checking in. Maybe even the manager comes over, checks in on how you're doing, how you're enjoying the food, if there's anything else they can get you. And there may be like surprises along the way. So for my birthday, because they made the reservation and they put a note that it was my birthday, we got a little surprise free dessert, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm literally thinking of my example too. Like my husband and I went away this weekend, Cannon Beach in Oregon. If you ever get the chance to go, you guys have to go to Anna's Table. It's already in my head, right? We all have these amazing restaurants that we've had these experiences at. And then there's kind of the flip side of this experience, right? Maybe you're at this restaurant and it takes forever to get your water. There's certainly no warm focaccia on the table. Maybe it takes a long time to get seated or get menus. Maybe you're not even getting seated. Maybe there's a long line. Your waiter or waitress has to constantly be flagged down and they like never check in on your food. Okay. So maybe this is a slightly silly example here, but I think what we're trying to go for is that we can learn so much from the simple experiences that we have out in the world and how they make us feel, or maybe even more importantly, how they compel us to act in terms of our spending, how we're pulling out our wallets, right? Our referrals or recommendations, and then how we're choosing to invest our time as well. So I want to hear from you guys as we're kind of going through this somewhat silly example. What's kind of your business equivalent to having to flag down the waiter, or my water glass getting empty, or I hate this one where I'm like trying to ration the bites that I have left with the amount of wine in my glass, and I'm like waiting for them to come back. So what is your service-based business like equivalent to having to flag the waiter down? Hop in the chat, because I know we've got a ton of different industries here today, right? So like as a copywriter, what's your business equivalent? Or as a venue, what's your business equivalent to having to flag down the waiter or trying to ration your food with your wine there? Okay, having to follow up on due tasks consistently. Yep, rationing bites, exactly, right? Yes, best first world problem. I know. I'm thinking that as I'm saying it too, but it was a fine dining experience for our anniversary. Come on, let a girl live. Okay, yes, exactly. Having a follow up on tasks, right? Any more examples that you have, send them through, sending a follow up message that warrants a response. Late work follow up. Yes, exactly. Okay, right? These are all, we can start to kind of get our gears turning here. Our light bulbs hopefully are starting to go off, because when it comes to our businesses and creating a lasting relationship with our clients, it's really no different, right? Restaurants are service-based businesses too. So how can we learn from them? The through line, or the kind of beating heart of keeping them coming back, telling their friends about you and singing your praises on the internet, is always going to come back to this client experience. Yes, I'm seeing more examples come through. No empathy on my workshops and just information, no follow-up. Oh, that's so powerful. Yep. Getting a follow-up after the pitch. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. Love, love, love these examples, you guys. So let's take a look at kind of this ideal client experience for our businesses. What does this really look like, right? And it all kind of starts with that organization piece that we touched on a little bit. This is going to be one of our key pillars that we dive into, but we need to start by consolidating our leads from our various marketing channels. We need to get organized first so that we can respond to those folks ASAP. And we're staying top of mind and really setting proper expectations so that when the time comes, we're creating that really painless experience for payment, signature, and kickoff. And all of these things, you guys, are building trust, impressing them, and having them looking forward to future projects with you, sending more people your way, and really ultimately bought in on your brand.
And Mac, if I may jump in, you
Please.
know, as independent business owners, you can totally check each and every one of these items off manually. But trust me when I say it is only going to be a lot harder, especially if your goal in the long run is to scale your business,
Right.
right? And while any good CRM is going to help you in these core areas, it is really important to find a system that alleviates the burden and potential chaos that can come from attempting to like hodgepodge all these processes together
Mm.
without a centralized tool.
Yeah.
And for me, as I said, 4.5 years ago, I was about 6 months into my own business. I was able to centralize everything thanks to HoneyBook.
Right.
And before we dive into each and every one of these sections, I really think it's important to acknowledge something that I tell my clients all the time.
Mm.
And that is this: in order to improve your process, you first have to be aware of what your process really is.
Yeah.
So some of what we're going to focus on today is walking you through that awareness piece so that you know exactly where you are starting from,
Yeah.
right? It's one thing to know where you're headed and why you're going there, your goals. But if you don't know where you are today, that journey will actually be a lot more daunting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so important. And we hear that all the time at HoneyBook from people who are onboarding. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
So let's dive into this first concept a little deeper with organizing and prioritizing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is all about what we were just saying, right? Centralizing your client information so that you can get super clear on who your ideal clients are. Doesn't that sound good? And then once we identify that, we can start to see maybe where some gaps or inefficiencies are in our processes. And then ideally, really freeing you up to start to optimize in those areas. And step number one of centralizing, we already talked about this, y'all, is lead capturing. And we're going to maybe, hopefully, challenge your thinking a little bit here. If you're using a contact form today, I want to challenge your thinking that this is more than just a way for them to get in touch. This is a strategic touch point in your business. So you want to make sure that this is really set up to not only empower you with the information you need, but empower your leads to know if you're the right fit for them as well. And Matthew, I know you have so much experience here. What's kind of one of the ways that folks should be really approaching that strategic touch point in their business?
Yeah, so the whole concept really boils down to making sure you're asking the right questions, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
with that contact form, that initial touch point. Start to think about what are your must-know qualifiers, right? What is the essential or non-essential information,
Yes.
rather, that you're usually glossing over or skipping to when a lead comes in and you're reviewing their intake, right? I want you to try and get in the headspace of those gut reactions, right?
Mm,
The yays, what are the nays? What are
yeah.
the red flags you should keep an eye on? And what are the green flags or those heck yes, I can't wait to talk to them, moments? It's
Mm-hmm.
important to take stock of that. And an example from my own business is for me in my business model is the dreaded I needed this yesterday
Right.
during a discovery call. And now I feel bad that they probably should have reached out to somebody else, or, now things are just kind of wonky.
Yeah.
And a question that could solve that for you might be, well, to include a question in your contact form as how soon would you like to get started? And perhaps include a drop down menu of predetermined options, and for me, with the exclusion of anything that says, the next few days or something. So it could
Right.
be this month, this quarter, this year. And
Yeah.
then I know, oh, great, this is someone who's aligned with how I work. And the client doesn't feel bad that they've wasted their time or mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both on the same page. And it's kind of empowering for both of us, right?
Right. Exactly.
Now, I'm kind of curious what some of the red flags are that you, the audience, want to filter out. So pop them in the chat. And I know this could get wild, but also pretty relatable. So what are some of the red flags you would like to filter out throughout your process? Pop
Yeah.
them in the chat and let's talk through a couple examples here.
Yeah. I know my gears are already turning too because there's some ways we can filter these things out too. Shauna says budget.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
budget. That's a big one. I actually, speaking of budget, I've started to include budget ranges when folks are selecting what service they're inquiring about. Because
Mhm.
again, I don't want someone to inquire with me if, you know, I would be over their budget and now it's weird, and just making it all clean and clear from the get-go.
Yeah.
Budget again,
Yeah. 4 times budget now.
people with no money budget.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, I think that's a great example then that Matthew just gave, right? Like, yeah, we gave the time frame example. Oh,
I
Yulia, I just need a couple of pictures.
Yeah, for me, it's I just need a logo. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Commitment to showing up. People who want to pay after the service. They don't align with my method. Yeah. These are awesome. Yeah, Gabby, the melting face is the only appropriate reaction. Okay, yes, you guys, there are certain points in our business, no matter honestly the stage that we're in, where let's be real, we need to protect our time, right? We can't afford to get on a discovery call with someone who's completely not the right fit for our business. Easier said than done, maybe. But if we're thinking about it that way, we do actually want to maybe scare some people off or detract these people who are not the right fit for our business. You want to make sure that these forms are allowing you to filter out those people who are not your dream client and actually make them feel really good about hitting no on not submitting that form, or just as much so feeling really empowered to say, yes, this is the right person for the job in that very first, again, making this a very strategic touch point in your business. So how are you empowering your leads, but also how are you empowering your leads to say no? Are you giving them enough context? Are you allowing those filtering questions to exist in there so that they can strongly say no just as much as they can strongly say yes? We covered a ton of really good kind of ground rules here. So I want to get those up on the screen for you guys. Again, no need to screenshot. I'll be sending the deck. So hang out here with us. You don't have to take notes or anything. These are the things we want you to consider, okay? Consider the length of your form. I think this is important too, because this is one way we can maybe start to scare off those actual dream clients. So make sure that it's not too long, but also make sure you're not letting too many people come through that door by not including the right types of questions, like Matthew was talking about, filtering those questions to empower them to say no earlier, respecting their time just as much as you're respecting your own, having that really empowering moment to say no, paying attention to the responses, like Matthew was saying. When you get those new inquiries coming in, notice where your eye goes on the page. What are you skipping over? Maybe that's a sign that those 3 questions you never read, you can actually get rid of and kind of reduce the barrier to entry for those clients. When it comes to qualifying your leads and getting the information you actually need, what are those, like Matthew said, those key qualifiers that you can zone in on? Tuning into those heck no's, tuning into those heck yeses, and then keeping an eye out for where you can add in a strategic question or an answer field. I think that option of doing a drop down with the pre-filled in, genius note there. So Matthew talked about doing a time range one. So if you get folks who are not working within your time range or inquiring and they're not, they're like, we need it yesterday. And you're like, I know the quickest I could do it is 3 weeks from now. That's where you start to put in those fields, right? Or Matthew gave the example of budget, starting to include those budget ranges for the different services so they know your kind of minimum entry price point and they can say, all right, it's not me, right? So including some of those things. And this is, again, back to centralizing. Centralizing is so important, and any good CRM is going to have these elements of lead capturing accounted for. Lead forms is how we do it in HoneyBook. They are forms you can completely customize and then embed onto your website, or they can be shared out in the wild, out in your link in bio or anywhere else that your leads are coming from. And Matthew, I know you actually use several lead forms in your business. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you have these set up and how you're kind of using these as that strategic touch point?
Yeah, the further along that I've gotten in my business, I really have taken the time to segment my types of lead forms, right? So I have I'll call it like an evergreen discovery call where
Right.
folks can self-qualify, but also self-book. For the place that I am in my business now, 5 years into it, I know the type of client that I want to work with. I know the questions that need to be asked so that I can respect their time and mine. And so I want people to be able to immediately, kind of what we're seeing here on the screen, take action
Yep.
without having to even, back and forth email me,
Yeah.
right? Another example would be for my birthday, because my birthday falls on the 30th of September. I did a 30% off flash sale
Love
last
it.
month. So this is actually taking a step ahead and not just like the inquiry phase, but actually like booking and receiving payment. So
Mm-hmm.
I've actually segmented it to a sales process as well.
Yep.
And it's really great because I can turn it on or off whenever I want to run that flash sale, whether it's for
Mm-hmm.
my birthday or something else. And the last one, which I think is a really big benefit of lead forms in HoneyBook, is that you could duplicate them and get very specific for different types of services, right? So you know your business best. Some folks want like a general inquiry form and then
Right.
ask what type of service they, are inquiring about. Other folks may be, again, maybe a year or two into their business, and you want to point folks who, I'm going to use myself as an example. If you're coming to me for logo design or web design or HoneyBook consulting, right? I could create a HoneyBook consulting lead form
Right.
with HoneyBook specific information that dives even deeper into weeding out or matching me up with the right, leads.
Yeah. I love that
So
concept. Yeah, weeding out or matching you up. That's exactly what we're going for.
yeah, and getting as specific as possible. So in the chat, what are all you doing currently for lead capture? Or a better question may be, what would you want to be doing regarding lead
Yeah.
capture?
Yeah.
Are
It's
you
like now
getting
that
specific? Are you like general right now? Have you kind of gotten into that place of you're starting to pick up on, the questions that would be important to actually
Mhm.
ask, or the ones you could remove, delete? Where are you all at?
Mhm. Yeah. And Francis says, I'm with you, Matthew. 4 years later, I finally know who I want to engage with. Exactly. So, yeah, how are you doing that in that intake process? What does that look like? Contact form on your website. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a ton of different ways, avenues, marketing channels to do this. So, what are you all doing?
Some a little bit more general, but would like to be more specific from
Mhm.
Gabrielle. Amy also has a general inquiry lead form, but you might segment into 4 specific
Mhm.
programs. Yeah, one caveat with that or a tip, I would make sure that when you're pushing folks to that, that they know that either you have other offerings as well.
Mhm.
So you're not kind of pigeonholing yourself, right? And making sure that the place where they came to that specific lead form, it's just clearly indicated that the intent is to find out more about this specific service.
Right.
Yeah.
Super smart. Yeah. Web order style on website that pushes to a sales team. Okay. Yeah. Hunter, I think is event design, if I'm remembering from the earlier questions before we got started. So that makes sense. You got to have a big team for that for sure. 15-minute discovery call to go through the questions, home organization and interior design, Taylor. Okay. Yes. Contact form to discovery call. We're seeing a lot of that. Okay, great. So
Mhm.
Matthew's example totally applies with you guys too. Um, and I think it's important to identify like lead forms is just one way you can collect information, right? Too. There's so many other options out there, especially if you're someone who's maybe even coming from an outside platform and you need to kind of make that switch. So lead forms are just one of the ways you can get information and your client information into HoneyBook. You can also import leads directly using a CSV or Excel file. We also just launched a Calendly integration. So if you're someone who uses Calendly for your discovery calls and you want those people to automatically pull into HoneyBook, we just like launched this on Sunday, which is amazing. So you guys are right on time. And then we have our Chrome extension as well. So the point is not to get too into the weeds on the HoneyBook stuff because we're wanting to talk about this more generally. The point is we need to get all these people into the right place with the right amount of information so we can really begin to prioritize them and determine if they're a good fit for us or not. And all the while, your leads are going through the same process on their side. They're trying to determine if your services are the right fit for them and if you're the right person for the job.
And this, Mac, is where I truly feel HoneyBook is really going above and beyond with a lot of their AI tools.
Mm,
First, like on the left, you can see that's a priority lead notification, which essentially can help you like quickly gauge your most valuable leads the moment that they hit your inbox. And you're seeing it here, like the notification on your phone. It's a
yeah,
little ping. Plus, on the right-hand side,
yeah,
there's a recently released AI-generated lead enrichment tool that basically grabs info about your lead so that you don't have to scrape the internet for it. And I think this one also just released
yes.
like days ago. And I remember messaging someone at HoneyBook being like, what is this magic?
Yeah,
Because I
Truly.
don't know about you all in your businesses, but the second that someone inquires, I always do a bit of not
Oh,
like
yeah.
business stalking, but like research.
We all do it.
And now that HoneyBook like brings in their Instagram, their website, I mean, me being in a visual space, it's helpful to
Right.
have that information at my fingertips.
Yeah.
And I think the real beauty of HoneyBook's AI assistant is that it is natively woven throughout the project, very much like you're seeing here,
Right.
in a way that can help anticipate your needs and also allow you to show up in an informed way that allows you to feel your best
Right.
and just hopefully move the needle in those earlier conversations.
Yeah.
Looks like Robin's
Absolutely.
excited about, I think, the lead enrichment
Yeah.
and that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this whole concept of priority leads, lead enrichment, all this information that HoneyBook is bringing into your world, it brings us to the concept of staying top of mind, right?
Mhm.
Which I think all of us can agree. We want to stay on top of mind of
Right.
our, if we're on Instagram, our Instagram followers, if, our email list, all of that stuff. And with what we're talking about today, it really staying top of mind is about keeping those dream clients like super warm and
Mhm.
ready to impress at every step of the journey, whether
Right.
they're ready to book you now or like 6 months from now, right? And we just talked about how your lead form is really that like first kind of handshake moment
Right.
to impress your clients, but to also empower them to take that next step, right? But also, like, what you're doing on the receiving end of that form hugely impacts their willingness to continue to move forward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely, and this is gonna be, like, a common theme throughout what we're talking about today. It's like each of these moments is a strategic touch point in your business, and you can't just focus on one to let it die at the next, and the
Right.
numbers do not lie in this regard, y'all. 86% of leads tend to go with the business that gets back to them the fastest. Has this happened to you? Raise your hand, show us in the chat. It's super common, right? You lose clients because you're not the first to respond. This is a staggering number, and I think it speaks volumes to the client experience. The numbers do not lie. What this tells me is that leads want to hire a person or a business who is on top of their stuff. Maybe it also highlights a little bit of like desperation, perhaps. But I think it really highlights the client experience, is really what we're talking about. Responding quickly and, yes, probably and hopefully in a personalized way uh, is super, super important. So this kind of leads us down the road of, okay, I've got to be first in their inbox. How do I do that? Probably automating, right? But I want to be personalized. I want to show up as my authentic self. I want to be um my charming, charismatic, authentic self. How do I find this balance, right? That's kind of the natural question that comes to mind. This is such a challenge, and it's so important in the client journey, and it often is one of those first things that we're trying to do after that lead form is submitted. How are we showing up for that 86%, right? And Matthew, I know you coach your clients through this and you're tackling this in your own business. Can you walk us through a little bit more how you're finding this balance in this razzle dazzle moment, right? Where we're trying to impress them. How do you strike that balance?
Yeah, it really is such a great question, Mac, because it is one of the most common questions, especially for folks who are new to HoneyBook or honestly any CRM where there's
Yeah,
like an automation feature.
right.
There's that fear of you know, not coming off authentic.
Mhm.
And so, yes, we want to aim to automate that first response so that one, you're not manually needing to just field all these inquiries and get back to people the
Right,
fastest. But we
right,
also want to personalize it by being specific and also setting proper expectations so that folks are never left like worrying or confused about what's to come.
right.
And I really always start with personalizing in your voice, right? We don't want
Yeah.
to sound robotic. There are some amazing functions and capabilities within a platform like HoneyBook, not to get specific, but like smart fields, you could, like if someone inquires and they put in their name, they select the project type, the date of their event or wedding or whatnot, it can pull that information in. And one of the biggest hurdles I see a lot of folks make is that they have their first response sound so robotic. It's like, "Hi, name. Thank you for your project type inquiry." Right? That's happening on this date. And I feel like if I got that, I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, see ya." Like,
Right.
I'm trying to work with a person. And it's like HoneyBook gives us the opportunity to step in when we don't need to, but we also want to make sure that we're curating and starting a real conversation, right?
Yes,
Because this is going to be the groundwork for what lies ahead.
exactly. So, yeah, it's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Look at what you've worked out in the past, what works in the past. If you're someone who's uniquely sitting down, typing out every single message to every single inquiry, there are probably a lot of the same concepts, themes, questions, expectation setting that you're addressing in those first messages. So, check out what you've done that's been effective in the past and run with that.
Yeah, and I know that, as I said earlier, like automations are a big sticking point for a lot of
Yeah.
people. We're fearful to put our business on like a cruise control, right?
Mm,
And entrusting this process to anything other than like your actual like
yeah.
capable hands feels in the season very spooky. Um, but if you really do take that time to do this the right way and set up your automations for success, this will serve you in the long run.
Yeah,
And automations are not like an end all be all, right?
right.
Especially with a platform like HoneyBook. I have clients who don't really use any automations, maybe beyond that initial inquiry response, right?
Mm,
And plus, I mean, not everything should be automated. We are humans after all. A lot of us are in service-based industries. We're independent business owners, and there are moments for automations, and there are moments for face-to-face meetings or a hand-typed reply, right?
yes.
Like for sure, that all exists. But speaking of like the razzle dazzle moment of like the sales process, the inquiry process, when it comes to converting leads into paying clients,
Mm,
your first touch point is definitely one that I would strongly recommend automating. Otherwise, you're just going to be the bottleneck in your own business, right?
yes.
And I know we've just kind of like blabbered on about a handful of tips here. So let's get a recap on the screen so we can just dial into what we're talking about.
Yeah,
So when it comes to striking that balance between personalizing and automating, don't try and reinvent that wheel. Use what you've done in the past as a jumping off point. I tell my clients all the time, go back to your dreamiest dream clients and look at the early communications, right, that you
mm,
sent to them. What were your replies to their initial inquiry? Take that data to inform your decision so that you can move forward with confidence, right? And try to think about where you can set expectations with your leads, right? So they're not confused or wondering what happens next. One thing to point out too is just because that stat, like people want to work with folks who get back to them the fastest, doesn't mean you have to start working with them tomorrow. You could respond back to someone through an automation and say, I actually did this in earlier, like January, February, when I was kind of taking not like a sabbatical, but I was working on like the back end of my business. And I let people know, thanks so much for your inquiry. I'm working on XYZ right now. If you'd be okay working with me, come March, I'd love to keep this conversation going. And when
yeah.
I tell you the amount of people that positively reacted to that and still booked me,
Mm,
even though maybe they were looking for someone this week, it offered them the opportunity to change their mindset,
right.
right? So set expectations with your leads, make sure that they know what's coming and that they could either get their stuff together before a discovery call or anything else.
Yeah,
And the final point would be, right, that not everything has to be automated. There's absolutely that time for hands-on interactions, but really remember to reflect on and ask yourself, which is a tough question as a business owner. It
yeah.
feels weird to I don't know if any of you have, hired help or assistance, but
Yeah.
it kind of feels the same way of like, "Wait, I'm not gonna be the one
Yeah.
doing all of this? What does it mean?" But it means
Yeah.
that you're growing and you're
Mm,
taking that next step in your business. So really take the time to reflect how you can strategically use the tools that you have across, excuse me, various touch points to ensure that you're moving swiftly enough to
mm,
actually get booked.
yeah. Yes. Love this, seeing some heart eyes. So powerful. And that's right. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about this concept of automations. We're talking about sending that email as soon as they inquire to set those expectations. We're talking about maybe a task reminder so you can get that peace of mind. You no longer have that burden or that weight of, did I get back to that person? You've already got it set. You're almost setting expectations for yourself on the business side as well, right? Like, get that stuff off your plate. This is going to save you so much of that chasing game. And it's so important that your CRM allow you to do this, staying top of mind. And of course, HoneyBook is one of those CRMs, from task reminders to your emails and files even automatically being sent based on client behavior. So if you know you like them to fill out kind of a longer questionnaire before they go into your discovery call, you can have HoneyBook automatically send that 24 hours, 48 hours before that discovery call without having to think about it. Like, how much of this work can you get off your plate so you can get back to really tapping into those client relationships and stop chasing after tasks and clients and leads and payment reminders? Gosh, there's so many things we have to do, right? And to Matthew's point that not everything will be automated all the time, it's equally important to have a CRM tool or a system in place that gives you really clear visibility. Visibility is huge into seeing who is who in your process so that at a glance you can more organically stay on top of your work as well. And again, there's a hundred different ways, 100 million different ways to do this in your business. So I want to hear from you guys as another just little community moment for us. How are you staying on top of your workflows today? Do you have a place? Do you have a source of truth? Maybe it's just your email inbox. Where do you go to see everyone you're working with and make sure you're really on top of communicating with them and things aren't slipping through the cracks? I would love to hear from y'all in the chat over there.
And if you're like me about 5 years ago, it was Post-its
Yep.
up on my wall.
We love scaling efficiently.
Yeah.
Hunter says, I use Boomerang that bounces the email back to my inbox at a scheduled time. Okay, yes. And I know even Gmail like has a new AI. Actually, I guess that's been around for a while where they're like, hey, you sent this email a while ago. Totally.
Mhm.
Renita, my dashboard is a huge help. Okay. Right now I use QuickBooks Accountant. Yeah, it's so important to have these things in place. Email and using Bitly to track if they are visiting my Calendly links. Super smart, Tina. Love that tip. HubSpot, absolutely. ClickUp. We've got a lot of people who love ClickUp. Organize and notify me based on task properties. Calendly, Asana. Yes, it is so important, you guys. And HoneyBook can obviously do this for you too. You can see the exact stage that your jobs and inquiries fall into. That's kind of what we're looking at up here on the screen. This is like a preview of the HoneyBook pipeline. It's helping you get that clarity on who's who in your workflow so nothing ever slips through the cracks. And then you can even group those stages together by, people who haven't booked yet or people who have booked, showing you who's kind of a lead versus a client. So those groupings and those stages are going to help you, again, get that bird's eye view on your business without having to dig through your inbox or anything like that. And we know prioritizing isn't just black and white. Oftentimes, there are a handful of factors and properties that come into play when you're trying to balance everything you have going on. And we've built the tools with that in mind so that you never have to go digging for that information that you need in order to keep you moving quickly. And we already touched on this a little bit, but the AI assistant that we were talking about, is a really good way to kind of ease into trusting your systems to manage those things on your behalf. Like if automations is maybe something, again, like Matthew was saying, how do you start to trust your tools and your systems? There are so many companies that are building AI tools into their tool belt to help their users get ahead. For example, HoneyBook has this AI writing assistant that I very briefly mentioned at the beginning. So, this is helping you draft up email responses to your clients and your leads. The more you use it, the more it picks up on your tone and your business style, as well as how you're typically responding to certain situations, allowing you to stay on top of things and move really, really quickly.
Yeah, and speaking from my own experience as someone who typically, there are some services where it's the exception, but I usually like to only automate the first and kind of final touch points. It's like my onboarding and my offboarding, everything else in between is very high touch based on my own business model.
Mhm.
And I gotta say, I love using the AI composer features throughout the
Yeah.
project management phase because I don't know if any of you are like me, but even as a designer, I'm much faster as an editor
Oh,
with
yeah.
words than someone who's just staring at the blank screen. And I actually really quickly, I had a client just message me yesterday. They're a photographer. His name's Dana, and he's been using HoneyBook for I think about like 6 months. And he literally said that he was out on a shoot, happened to look at his phone, saw the priority lead, the AI composer essentially pitched the client
Yeah.
literally in the way that he would, which was, like, kinda freaky, but really, really cool, and I think all he did was just go in and change, like, one quick thing about his availability, sent it, and the client booked, and he's like, "I've never" and I'm not exaggerating, he's like, "I've never been able to book a client faster with, like, minimal effort and
Wow.
still have it come across in an authentic manner," right?
Okay. Yeah, I have full body chills, but yes, love it. Incredible.
And so I love that the AI composer, does the same thing for me also when I am, prepping for, like, a meeting and, like, hosting a call. So
Mm,
HoneyBook will send I'm not sure if any of you have experienced this yet. It's been up for a little bit, but, uh, HoneyBook will send a project recap with a summary of all the relevant details and insights gathered before that meeting so that you don't have to waste time digging through your inbox, right?
yeah,
Or feverishly writing down notes on Post-it notes. You can literally have it there as a note that you could start taking, on the call.
yeah.
And also, um, they will the AI essentially in the meeting prep last month sorry, it's like story time with Matthew. During my birthday flash sale, it recommended, like a possible upsell. They
Yeah.
said, like, "This client potentially could be good for an upsell for" I have a brand audit accelerator service.
Mhm.
This client only had booked like a 1 hour off like a one-off session,
Oh,
and literally, I didn't even have to say the words by 3/4 of the way through our call.
yeah.
The client said like, I think I saw something about your brand audit accelerator. I would love to, like, learn more about that." And I barely even had to say anything, but the fact that I was already kind of, like, primed for
Yeah.
that conversation, I wasn't, like, caught off guard,
Right.
it like, my jaw dropped.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, meetings can be such a make or break moment, especially around this client relationship piece that we're talking about. Um, And I know this is one area where HoneyBook AI comes in as well is the meeting note taker. So we have a little AI assistant that's going to be joining your meetings and taking notes for you. It's going to take a transcript, it's going to take notes for you so that you can be really fully present. And meetings come into play throughout our workflows, right? From the qualification piece that we kind of more have been focusing on today to actually closing out your clients, and leaning on your tools here is so crucial when it comes to this concept of showing up confidently.
Yeah, and let's be honest, right? There are I wanna say hundreds, but that's probably an exaggeration, but there are a lot of CRM options out there, and this is my personal opinion, HoneyBook is definitely leading the charge when it comes to, like, surfacing and prioritizing the real relationships
Mm,
behind your client interactions with these AI tools. right?
Yeah.
It's not about like replacing you. It's about building you up. It's about empowering you. It's about helping you to focus on what you actually love to do in your business.
Mm.
And I really think that this like AI tool direction that HoneyBook is going is going to be one of the biggest differentiators you come across while like shopping for whatever solution is right for you, right? And it's also important to acknowledge that showing up confidently, right, like closing with confidence, isn't just about the sales process, right? It's not just about
Mm.
selling. You
Right.
want to ensure that your leads feel confident in your services and systems every step
Mhm.
of the way, from initial inquiry to booking that discovery call and everything in between. That confidence doesn't just come from the one experience, right? It's the trust that's built along the way, in addition to the proper tools that will set you up for an easy yes,
Yes.
right? And everything that we've talked about today up until this point will play a pretty big role in that confidence.
Yeah. And now, again, this is not to say that once your client is ready to say yes, you let off the gas here, right? All of these pieces are strategic touch points. So the booking flow is got to play a role here too. Arguably, maybe the most important piece because this is your livelihood. This is when they're pulling out their wallets. So, how are you optimizing it for the smoothest, most effortless yes? Is so important. And Matthew, obviously, this is part of what you do with your clients and with your own business. Can you walk us through how people can start thinking about the booking flow and making sure it's running as smoothly as possible?
Yeah. So I'm going to start with echoing a phrase that we've said probably 10 times already, but start by determining what you're doing today at present
Yeah.
with a special eye for if that thing that you're doing is truly the best way to do it. An example
Mhm.
I would give is, do you need for your business or the specific service, do you need to collect payment and contract in the same step, or could they be separated,
Mm.
right? And I want to illustrate like a pro tip here. Don't make the initial payment or contract file too cumbersome. No one
Right.
wants to leave a discovery call with a potential new like service provider and feeling so excited, and now they have 25 pages to get through, and then the dog starts barking, they want to make dinner, they forget about it, 3 weeks
Right.
later they haven't even done anything yet.
Yes.
And you would so much rather have them say like, heck yes, they get it, smart file, they click through the next step, and then we can like tackle things. So
Yeah.
figure out, what am I doing currently? And could I separate, combine, right? The
Mhm.
inverse could always be true, but
Mhm.
really think about and be critical with what you're currently doing. The second thing would be, is there opportunity? It kind of connects to the first one, but is there room to like simplify, right? So another example is, what is best to ask async to someone via like an
Mhm.
email or back and forth versus live, right? This could be in regards to scheduling your next meeting. Heck, you could even be on the discovery call. And if they say, yeah, I'd love to work together, you go, awesome. Well, before we do anything else, let's just book our first session
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
right? So, how can you set yourself up for success by essentially auditing what you're currently doing and just making small tweaks, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we brought up so many good points here, and I wanna touch base with the audience again. I know we've kind of lost touch a little bit in our communication that we had rolling for a minute there. So, um, is there anything that we've been talking about? What parts of your process are starting? Do you have little light bulbs going off around where you're starting to see an opportunity in your process? I know I'm kind of visualizing the map at the very beginning of today's class that we showed around like marketing and lead capturing and qualifying and prioritizing all those stages. Where are you starting to see maybe bottlenecks or room to improve? I would love to have you guys share that in the chat. Um, and then I want to put up on the screen too. Matthew brought up so many good kind of thinking points to consider around like, okay, where am I noticing that things are slipping through the cracks? Start to have that special eye for these things. Where are things slipping through the cracks? Where are you having to apologize for a late response? Or where are you losing clients because someone's responding faster? Where are you currently involved? Like, where are you holding on to the reins, but maybe you can afford to release a little bit and start trusting and outsourcing to some tools and systems? How effortless is your booking process for your clients? And then how much of that process includes waiting, right? Are they saying, yes, I'm ready to book, and then waiting 2 days to receive an invoice, like Matthew was just talking about? Are you getting off that discovery call with an empowered, yes, here are your clear next steps, no waiting game necessary? These considerations are all going to help point you to those inconsistencies, those bottlenecks, and areas where you can improve. And of course, as Matthew mentioned at the beginning, a good CRM tool is going to simplify this process, not only give you that visibility like we talked about to centralizing that work so you can literally see with your eyeballs in your workflows where people are bottlenecking, but you'll also be able to solve for those things using these tools to streamline in those areas more easily. And of course, the example we're going to give here is what Matthew mentioned around HoneyBook Smart Files, where you can combine payment and contract into a single file and client interaction. And this process gets even more powerful when we consider how automations come into play. Like, maybe we want to automatically send them an email after they purchase here with the ability to schedule that kickoff call, right? And an email feels a little bit more personal than just embedding the scheduler into the file, right? So how are we separating or condensing those stages? And payment flexibility is another huge piece here, in terms of how the process feels to your clients, offering things like Apple Pay or Google Pay, credit card, ACH, making that digital payment process feel as easy as possible, and kind of going back to that idea of an easy yes and making sure your client experience doesn't die as soon as you reach the invoice is so important. And beyond flexibility around payment types, we also want to offer flexibility around payment plans. So setting up things like recurring payments or auto pay, or even allowing them the flexibility to choose their own payment schedule altogether, can really impress your clients through this very quite literally transactional part of the client journey. Again, thinking about each touch point as an opportunity, as a strategic moment to impress them. No matter kind of how you're doing this in your business, there's also always the issue of following up on payments and payment reminders. So HoneyBook can help you manage all of that as well automatically, so that you have total peace of mind and you never have to have another awkward payment conversation again.
Yeah, the I actually, one of my retainer clients, Steven, started our first kickoff call. This is a couple of weeks back. And by asking how many people I have working with me, because I was so organized with all of my prep, my messages, my reminders, the payment, reminders.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm getting these messages from, we're from Boston, so you got to have like the wicked Boston accent. And he wanted to know my secret sauce. And needless to say, now Steven,
Yeah.
is considering how he could use HoneyBook in his business. So it's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
It truly does not get better than that. It's like your client experience was so impressive that now your client wants to recreate it for themselves. So we absolutely love to see it. And you guys, I know we're at time. Really quickly, I know we've gone through a ton, right? We've talked about queuing you into your process and how to optimize for that, and how a good CRM tool can help you do that. It's natural to have some concerns here. So I want to take a moment and a pause to take some of those from you. What feels scary, or what's kind of holding you back? Or is there any kind of speed bump in your mind around building this out for your business and really optimizing your client journey? What is kind of the biggest hurdle that's coming up into your mind as you're thinking about doing this? And we're all going to stay late and answer questions. So if you've got to go, take that poll for me. Don't forget to start a HoneyBook trial. It's a free 7-day trial if that's something you want to explore. But if you can stay and hang out with us, go ahead and do that too, because we're going to answer all of your questions. But I want to hear from you. What's kind of coming up in your mind when you're thinking about this idea of tackling building out this client journey for your business? What's starting to come up? I want to see those in the chat.
Yeah, I saw one Mac
Yeah.
about a minute ago from Emma, feeling like they're always creating a lot of custom proposals instead of having
Mm,
files ready to send. And that was
yes.
definitely something for me earlier on. And, there's still always those moments of I'll catch myself customizing something beyond my, service parameters.
Yeah.
And I definitely relate to that.
Yeah. Actually, that's kind of a perfect segue too into,
Oh,
yes, we're seeing where to start, onboarding, absolutely. When it comes to a new system and when it comes to optimizing your existing process, there are issues of time, there are issues of customization, there are issues of design. How do I get started? And this is really where the HoneyBook template gallery can come into play and really alleviate some of those blockers to getting set up and getting set up in a timely manner that is kind of the least disruptive to your existing client process as well.
yeah, and I know in the chat, Ali expressed feeling overwhelmed and not really knowing where to start. Well,
Mm,
the HoneyBook template gallery is a wonderful place to start.
yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm a brand designer, where this really feels crucial for me and my
Yeah.
clients, but especially for someone who may be self-identified as more tech averse or maybe not
Mm,
so design
mm,
inclined, or maybe you're so early in your journey, you don't really have all the brand assets figured out just yet. The template gallery is really going to be your first port of entry to help gather inspiration so
yeah.
that you can quickly edit your way to getting leads faster.
100%. I always describe this as like business Pinterest for your files. Like, this is such a great place to go, if not just for inspiration. Actually, you can save these templates and use them in your account. And when you're even on trial, y'all, these are free, accessible to you. So making that process even easier for you. And then we've got some extra ways that we help out once you're a member with us as well. We offer complimentary file setup to all of our new members. So you can send us your contracts, your invoices, your pricing guides, and questionnaires. And we take about 3 to 5 business days to set those up. So you're not having to spend as much time on a learning curve there. We also have a 60-day money back guarantee. So once you're a member, if it doesn't end up being the right fit for your business, we want to make sure. Yes, this is Tyrese, and I think he was planning to join us today. He's one of our wonderful members. We highlighted all existing members in this campaign, which was so, so fun to work with all of you guys. But yeah, if it turns out to not be a good fit after you purchase membership, we give you that free, not free, we give you that full 60 days to really explore and get your money back if it's not the right fit. And we have the ability to explore the features for a free 7-day trial as well. So if you need the link for that, again, I know the little pop-up offer went away at the top of the chat. We can pop that in the chat. Actually, maybe Steve, you can pull in the link for folks to start a trial in the chat there if they want to take advantage of that. Yeah, so that was really everything we had planned, you guys. Thanks for staying a couple minutes extra. We just had so much good stuff to get to. We had to go 5 minutes over. Matthew, thank you so much for your brilliant expertise and your know-how. It is truly always such a pleasure to spend time with you and learn from you. So I'm so appreciative.
Thank you, Mac. It's been
Yeah.
such a joy, and it's lovely to see everyone's responses throughout. It's not often that when I do a webinar, I actually look at the chat because I usually stay so focused, and this
Right.
time I was committing to it because the energy today was really wonderful,
It was.
and I think everyone's asking the right questions, so you're all
Yes.
in the right place.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys. You guys, again, real MVPs with the energy in the chat, just helping us out so much in that regard. So we don't feel like we're in a black hole the whole time. All righty, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to hopefully working with you in the future, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.